Okay, today's video is going to be about a brand new character and I will be doing my review for him. However, before that, we have a gift code again and it's going to be KBSR260425. Now, going forward, I probably wouldn't be showing you guys this kind of gift code again because it's always the same format, just KBSR plus today's date, which is normally a Saturday. So you guys just go and try out every single Saturday. If there's a new code in the future, which is a different format, then I will talk about it. But otherwise, just take this for granted. Every single Saturday, you can just enter KBSR plus that date. Okay, so let's redeem it together, and it's always the same reward as well each time, which is 1 miracle ticket and also 10 red notebook. Okay, so now let's talk about the main topic, which is the brand new character we just got, and that is gonna be Chihiro Mayuzumi. Now, he is basically the new Phantom 6 man, and in all honesty, he is just like the base version of Kuroko. I personally value him on the same level as the base version of Kuroko, and obviously worse than the Miracle version of Kuroko. Now, should you be getting him? In all honesty, he's quite expensive to train up, so if you already have the base version of Kuroko, you can just use base version of Kuroko. There's absolutely no need for you to get him. I'll compare the two briefly later on, but I am still going to recommend you guys try to get him and just get him to 80% talent, not for anything else other than just because when he is introduced, there's this event where if you do actually get him to 80% talent, you can get this free awakening card, which you can actually dismantle for 80 fragments. Okay, so even if you're not planning to play Mayuzumi in the future, you should still be just kind of get him to 80% talent, and then just dismantle the awakening card for you to use on a different character. Okay, so that's going to be my recommendation in terms of whether or not you actually want to get him. Now, whether or not you actually want to play him is completely different. Okay, so in terms of talent priority, because he's a fairly cheap character to build, you kind of just max out everything. If you really are struggling for resources, the order you should be doing is going to be the first one. You completely unlock it so that you are able to get this catch, drive, and then shoot. And then the next one you're going to get is the second one, which is basically allow you to catch, drive, and pass. Okay, that's going to be the two variations he will be playing around with. Once you have those two, he's kind of ready to go. If you don't have to add further, the next one I'm going to recommend is this one, just to increase his speed. That's kind of allow him to just quickly, just run faster, and that gives you an edge defensively so that you can follow and also block in time, etc. And then afterwards, you can then move on to this drifting shot. It's pretty much fairly straightforward. You just basically drift slightly more whenever you do a jump shot. Okay, so that's going to be the order. So you start off with this one, then this one. Once you have those two, it's kind of already ready to play. And then furthermore, you can then unlock the speedy sprinting faster sprint one, and then the drift shot one, and then you can leave the ultimate till last. Okay, so that's going to be my recommendation in terms of his talent priority. In terms of awakening, like I said, I don't really think it's worth putting any awakening on him. If you really want to play this type of character, just simply play the base version of Kuroko. Okay. Now, in terms of comparison between him and also base version of Kuroko, so to me, the two are very, very similar in terms of what they're able to do. The main difference is that the base version of Kuroko doesn't really have a shooting skill, whereas Mayuzumi actually have the ability to catch and then drive and shoot. So offensively, Mayuzumi is slightly better. However, defensively, Kuroko is going to be better because Kuroko actually have pretty strong steel. Whereas if you actually take a look at Mayuzumi's skills, you then realize he doesn't really have any defensive attacks. Like he can like run a bit faster, which can potentially allow you to get in time to get into a better blocking position, but he doesn't actually have a blocking skill itself. Okay, so if I have to compare it to you, I would just say Mayuzumi is slightly better offensively than the base version Kuroko, but then the base version Kuroko is slightly better doing the defensive possession. But yeah, overall, I value them to be exactly the same. And because the base version of Kuroko is just so much cheaper to build, there's really no reason for you to actually play Mayuzumi other than the fact that you want to get him to 80% just for that free awakening card. Okay. Now, in terms of his potential, what you want to go for is the mid block jump set, which is one of the most universal potential set in my opinion. Basically, you definitely want to go for his mid-range because that's kind of his standout point in comparison to base version Kuroko. So you do want to utilize this as much as possible. And then also you want to go for block and vertical. The main reason for this is that even though he doesn't have any defensive skills, his base stats, to be honest, is not actually that bad. So if I just show you his base stat, what you can see is that obviously I'll have him with his potential added on, so there's an extra 40 here. But you can see here, at base he already have 106, and my Mayuzumi is only level 40 as well. Okay, so once I actually level him up completely, I mean, I'm not planning to, but if you do actually level him up completely, this vertical will be even higher. And so the same thing with block as well. I have 40 extra here from potential, but the base is already 102, even at level 40. So if you actually, completely max him out and also equip with the block and vertical, he's actually decent, right? Even though he's lacking that blocking skill, but he's actually decent at blocking. And also because he does have that faster sprinting skill, he can actually fairly easy to follow and also get into the right position. So that's kind of what potential was. I'm going to suggest the mid and also block ones. And then in terms of the trade, what you want here is also, by the way, in case you don't know what I mean by the mid and potential, mid and block potential. So basically the blue one is mid and vertical, yellow one is mid and block, and green one is block and vertical. Okay, so basically you just fully concentrate on those three stats alone, and each one of them can get to 40%. Okay, then in terms of the trades, same thing, you kind of want to go for as much block as possible. So what I have done here is I have done both shot blocker and also area zone. In the future, there also another one. It's locked behind paywall right now, but another really good one for you to put on him is also going to be two-way player. Okay, this one is also very good. And also, if you do really want to make him a bit more useful in terms of like his ult, etc., you can also use make some noise. The budget version for this, which I'm using right now, is Light of Hope. Okay, so basically you focus on blocking and also ult energy in terms of his trait. Okay, now let me quickly show you guys in the training mode exactly how you should be playing Mayuzumi. So Mayuzumi basically should always only be attacking when you don't have the ball. Okay, so the idea is you always ask the opponent to pass the ball to you first before initiating any pattern. Now he has basically 4 different attack patterns, and that's because he basically have 2 ways of positioning and 2 ways of either passing or shooting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate by standing at kind of this position, which is kind of at the bottom of this circle. And basically the first positioning that you'll be able to do is just simply catch and pass. So if you just quickly press this button, what you're going to see is that he takes basically 1 step to the right. So now I'm just outside this circle, and then that's basically the positioning movement I'll be able to do. Now instead, what you can also do is to do a catch and drive, and then you can see here, now I will actually end up so much further away from my initial position. And because there are 2 different types of positioning, it kind of forces the enemy to guess a bit. And then the other guessing the enemy also need to do is whether or not you'll be passing or actually making a shot, and you can do this for both of positions as well. Okay, so start off with the first one, which is only taking 1 step. So if I just do catch and pass and then quickly press the shoot button afterwards. Sorry, I've done that wrong. Let me do this again. So you can see here, I can quickly change my catch and pass into a catch and shoot instead. So that's kind of the first positioning and shooting at the first positioning. Same thing I can also do with the second positioning. So if I do a catch and drive, and then do a shot, then you can see here I'll be shooting all the way over here. Okay, so that's a 2 different variation of shots based on your positioning, and the same thing I can do with passing as well. So obviously the standard catch and pass is very straightforward. You just hold that button. Then the catch and drive pass is just you press catch and drive and then you press the pass button afterwards. Okay, so basically go like this, and then you make it like this. Okay, so that's literally the 4 different variation. So basically just like a 2x2 combo, depending on where your positioning is, and also whether or not you shoot or you pass. And because there are 4 different variations, that's kind of what makes him a bit more versatile than the base version of Kuroko, because it kind of forces the enemy to guess a bit. There's actually one other move that Mayuzumi has, but I can't really show it because I don't have him max awakening, but that's basically something you can only get at awakening 6, which is basically the same where under your ult, you can actually do a fake pass and then drive to shoot, okay? Personally, however, I do not recommend this because first of all, the motion of you doing a fake pass, basically the one who's marking doesn't need to do anything because you'll be passing the ball. So this actually just gives your opponent or your marker even more time to follow up with your drift shot afterwards. So that's kind of why personally I feel like this is a quite useless move. And also obviously this actually requires 6 do, cubes with 6 awakening, and with all of that resource, you might as well just reset him for a completely different character's awakening card instead. Okay, so that's kind of why personally I don't recommend this. Okay, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about Chihiro Mayuzumi in a nutshell. Let me know what you guys think of this character.